There we go. Perfect. So hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today on our live stream. My name is Hani, and today, together with Jessica from University of Pennsylvania, we're going to talk about tips for getting into top-tier colleges. So I know that this is a very demanding topic from you guys. I know that you're applying to very selective schools in the United States. So I'm happy that Jessica is going to talk to us about what you need to do and how to do it. This is mostly for fall 2024 students, applicants, because you guys, fall 2023, are already past your decision date, and I'm happy for you guys and for your college admissions. But fall 2024 students, please check this out. This is going to be super informative. So just a little bit about Education USA. So again, my name is Hani, for those of you who don't know me. And if we click, you will see that Education USA is a network that provides free and up-to-date and unbiased information about study opportunities in the United States. So if you guys are thinking about applying to a university or college in the United States and you need some free advice or help, feel free to reach out to me, and I am happy to help you and go through the process with you, because I know it can be very difficult. As for where we are, so my office is in Prague. I am located at the Fulbright office at Karmelická 17. You can also reach out to me online under advisor@fulbright.cz. If you are not from Prague, but we also have American centers all around the Czech Republic. So if you're from Plzeň, Ústí, Olomouc, Brno, Ostrava, there is an American center in your town that you can visit and get the basic advising there. And you know, if you need more assistance, you can always reach out to me. And as for our services, so apart from webinars and live stream like this one, we also have a library. So fall 2024 students, you are preparing for your SATs. So I can offer you books for SATs or for TOEFL or for Duolingo. So you can definitely stop by and borrow books from us. And I also offer consultations. So they can be in person if you are a Prague person. They can be online. We can exchange emails, whatever suits you the best. Also, if you scan the QR code, that will get you to our monthly newsletter that I create, and it's full of information about what's new in US higher education or which school offers which kind of scholarship. So definitely check that out. And you can also find a lot on our social media under Education USA Czech. I usually post about upcoming events or scholarship opportunities or just student success stories. So right now it's, you know, almost everything is about students that were accepted to US colleges and universities and are starting at fall 2024, sorry. So this is our social media, and now I'm gonna leave it to you, Jessica. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I'm happy to learn how to get to top-tier colleges and universities.
Sure. Thank you so much, Hani, and hello, everybody. My name is Jessica Ward-Raygosh, and I am an admissions officer at the University of Pennsylvania, also known as Penn. And I'm really excited to be here today or this evening for you to talk more about how to get into top-tier universities in the US. So we'll be talking about selective admissions tips, advice, and then I'll also talk at the end a little bit more in depth about my university, the University of Pennsylvania. So as you're starting to think about your college or university search, one thing you should know about the US, which you may know already, is that the US is incredibly diverse when it comes to colleges and universities. There are literally hundreds and hundreds of different places to study, and a lot of them are very different from each other. So the first part of the process for you should be really reflecting on what you're excited about in your own college journey. You should be asking yourself these questions on the screen. What kind of college or university do you want to attend? Think about the type of institution. We have really big universities. There are really small universities. Some are public, which means they're probably affiliated with the state, and some are going to be private. You'll think about the location too. The United States is really big. Do you want to be on the West Coast, up over in California? Do you want to be in New York City? Do you want to be in a more rural or suburban location? Thinking about academics as well is also very important. If you know you want to study engineering, then of course you're going to narrow your search to universities that offer engineering degrees. Thinking about what you want to study, what universities offer that area of study, and what you're most interested in. There are some universities that are large and will have any program you could possibly think of, and some might be smaller and much more specialized to the arts or to STEM, for example. You also want to think about campus life. Campus life is a really big part of American college experience. You will likely be, of course, going far away from home. If you come to the US, you'll be living on campus. So you want to learn more about what it might be like to live on campus. Who are the people you're going to live with, and what's going on campus? Think about clubs, activities. When you apply to a college, you should really feel like you could definitely see yourself being successful and happy living there. You may also want to think about life after college. Do some research on alumni of that school. Where do they live? What kinds of jobs do they get? What kinds of industries are they going into? And maybe ask yourself, do you think you want to go back home, go back to the Czech Republic, go back to Europe? You want to stay in the US? What's your goal here as you're starting to really think about your future pathway? Of course, fit is a word that we use a lot. It's very important that the college that you end up at is a good fit for you. And there's a lot of different kinds of fit. An academic fit is a school where you're going to be academically successful and where they have the programs that you want to study. A social fit is a school where you really feel like you can make friends, be happy with the social life, because that's also a really big part of studying at a college for 4 years or 2 years. And then finances. It's really important to be at a school that is a financial fit for you and your family. So if you are thinking about applying to colleges in the US this upcoming year, it's good to start having those conversations with your family about what finances will look like for you. And then my best advice is to have an open mind. We all can look up the rankings, or you might hear opinions of maybe parents or people in your life or your teachers or your classmates. Maybe you hear a rumor about a certain school, but those only scratch the surface of what it's like to be at a university. So definitely have an open mind and see beyond what the rankings are and think about what would be the perfectly ranked school for what you are really excited about experiencing. And also, if you're applying to US schools, you probably want to create a balanced list. Different schools have different admit rates, and they may be more selective or less selective. It's really nice to have a wide variety so that you're not necessarily putting all your eggs in one basket for highly, highly selective schools, knowing that the odds might be lower that you have a US admission decision at the end of the day. When it comes to finances, I do want to touch briefly on financial aid. So with US colleges and universities, there are many different types of financial aid, and I've listed out the main types here. There's merit aid, which is often called a merit scholarship, which is going to be money given to admitted students who might be academically very strong, or it could also be based on an athletic scholarship if you are a recruited athlete and might be playing athletics at that college level. Then there's need-based aid. That's not based on any merit, academics, athletics. That's fully based on your family financial need as determined through different financial aid forms. Grants are funding that you receive from a university that you don't need to pay back. That's basically free money that is granted to you to pursue your studies. And a loan, probably a private loan potentially, would be money that you receive to cover your costs, but you will need to pay back at the end of your college experience over the next few years. And then there are also things like work study, having a campus job that could be part of a financial aid package, where maybe you have a certain amount of money set aside to help you with living expenses, but it does require that you get a part-time job on campus, and plenty of schools will offer that and will have opportunities for international students to participate in that.
That's great. Can I ask a question about grants? Because I usually advise about merit and need-based scholarship as well as work study. But what about grants? Can students apply, like especially about UPenn? Do you have something that they can look up and see what you offer for internationals?
Yes, good question. Yes, so at Penn, we do offer need-based aid only. At UPenn, as a whole Ivy League, we don't have any merit scholarships or athletic scholarships. If you apply to Penn, you apply for financial aid through our different forms, and I'll go over those too in a bit. And then if you're admitted, we guarantee to meet your financial need through grant-based aid. And that's funding that Penn has specifically. And at Penn, we have limited funding for international students compared to our US students, because there's federal funding we get from the government that doesn't apply to international students. But that being said, we have an incredible financial aid budget for international students. So our international students who are admitted to Penn and receive financial aid, that's always going to be grant-based and not loan-based. Awesome. Yes, so it's basically, we want to make Penn affordable for your family based on your family income.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, and then you may hear the term need blind versus need aware. As I mentioned earlier, so at Penn, we are need aware, which means when we read an application for it, we know that we don't have as much funding for international students compared to US students. So we do consider a student's financial need in our admission decision. That being said, we do admit many students internationally every year, and we are able to provide full funding based on their financial need. There are a few schools in the US that are fully need blind, which means they have enough financial aid budget to be able to meet the need of every single student, no matter what their citizenship is. So that's something to think about. If you know that you're applying for financial aid as an international student, definitely take a look at which colleges might be need blind, but also know that many need aware colleges do offer funding for international students.
Here I'm going to be very practical, because I have students asking me this question when they apply to Penn, because they know they are need aware or you're need aware. And they ask me, so should I ask for everything that I really need, or should I ask for less just to look, not as needy? So what is the best answer to that? Should they be really honest about their need, or should they try to be less honest and try to get the money elsewhere?
Good question. So I always say be honest, because if you apply and you say, I don't need any financial aid, we fully look at your application. And if you're admitted, because you said that you don't need financial aid at the beginning, you can't then apply for financial aid after the fact. And we're pretty clear about that in our process. So if you know that you do need aid, it's always best to apply. We do have a lot of aid available, a lot of funding available. But if you are looking into outside sources, of course, that can be a conversation that you might have with your family and also with your school or your EducationUSA advisors to think about that. And you can always reach out to us directly and ask if you have a more complicated situation. But I always say err on the side of being honest and just telling us what that need might be. We have international students at Penn from all over the world. Some of them receive just a little bit of financial aid that makes it affordable for their family, and some of them receive entirely full financial aid, which covers everything from living on campus, full tuition, and even potentially funding for travel to and from home on those breaks.
Wow, that's very generous. Thank you.
Some tips when it comes to financial aid. As I mentioned earlier, it's always good to talk about finances with your family early in the process so that you have a realistic understanding of what your situation might be and what schools might be affordable for your family. The CSS profile is a form available through the College Board website, and that's the main form that you might be filling out for private universities. There might be other forms depending on which schools you're applying to. At Penn, international students fill out the CSS profile form, and we have a Penn-specific form. So it's always good to do that research ahead of time. Many universities offer fee waivers if you can't afford the application fees, and so that's something to keep in mind if you're looking at your list. Find out about how you can get access to those fee waivers. Deadlines are really important in financial aid. So it's always great to get organized, take a look at what deadlines might be. make a spreadsheet or write it down on a list to keep organized to make sure you've got everything ready to go. Again, as I said, you want to research financial aid policies at every university. This is complicated because the US is so diverse. Every school might do things a little bit differently. And so you want to be aware of different schools and what they might offer. And you always can explain any unusual or extenuating circumstances to the financial aid offices. We have this happen all the time. For example, if your parents have a family business, sometimes that looks different every year with income. Or maybe your family was really impacted by COVID. Or, we have Ukrainian students who apply to Penn and they have really severe impacts on their finances because of what's happening in Ukraine. And we absolutely will work with you, but it's all about just communication and getting us that information. And again, you always have your advisors at school and with EducationUSA. All right, when it comes to actually applying to college, there are going to be a few application plans you might see. The Common Application is what Penn uses, and it's commonapp.org. It's used by more than 1,000 different colleges in the US, so it's a really good place to start. And then different colleges may have different ways to apply. There are early programs. You might see early decision and early action. These deadlines may vary school to school, but typically you would apply early by around November, and you might hear your decision by December or January. The regular decision timeline, you would apply typically by January, and you would hear your decision by April. With early programs, early decision is typically a binding option. Penn offers early decision, where if you absolutely know that Penn or whichever school is your first choice school and they offer early decision, you're saying that I'm making that total commitment to Penn. It means you've already done all that research and you're also aware that it's a financial fit for your family. Early action is going to be that early timeline, but non-binding. So it's a nice way if a school has early action to find out that decision a little earlier, but you don't have to make that commitment yet. Regular decision is non-binding. It's the most common way that students apply to most schools. And so you'll hear back your decision by April, and then typically you have about a month to make your final college decision on where you're going to go. And then some schools do offer something called rolling admission, which means that you can apply at any time. But typically with rolling admission, it's better to apply earlier because once all the spots are full, then they say, okay, we're closed, we're not accepting any more applications. And typically rolling admission, you might have a quicker turnaround. When I applied to colleges, I applied to one school rolling admission, and I got to find out my decision 2 weeks later, which was a really nice perk.
That's great. Here I have a question because many students this year got waitlisted. And then they're like all scared what's going to happen, when they're going to find out. So my question is, when a student gets waitlisted, what are the chances?
Good question. So when we waitlist students, it means, wow, we are so impressed. You're so close. We love you, but it's a selective process. We have so many applications. And so you were very close, but didn't quite make it right now. But we want to keep you on a wait list because we might have spots open up because we're not sure how many students are going to accept our university. They might choose to go somewhere else. So if you get a waitlist decision, typically you're not going to hear much more information until after May 1st. Mm-hmm. May 1st is the deadline where colleges kind of finalize their class. So right now at Penn, it's early May at lots of colleges. Everyone's taking a look at who's coming to our schools and saying, hey, do we have any space available? We might have 10 spots left in engineering, and we might have a few spots left for, for the music department, things like that. And so then typically May or June is when you might hear a final decision from the wait list. You may be admitted off of the wait list, or you might get a message that says, hi, we're closing our wait list, that, best of luck to the school that you are going to attend. But typically, if you're waitlisted, it means you're very close. You can typically submit like a letter confirming your continued interest if you're still excited about that school. And then it's a waiting game to see if there's extra space available.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. When it comes to reading applications, we in the US, especially at a school like Penn, our highly selective school, There's no automatic admission. There's no, this GPA is automatic, it automatically gets you in, or if you have this test score, you're in, and this test score, you're out. We are going to look at every single thing that you submit to us, and we'll think about who you are as an academic, who you are outside of the classroom. We'll look at your recommendation letters to see what your teachers tell us about you. We'll look at your essays to learn more about who you are as a person. And there might potentially be an interview involved as well. But we really are thinking about you as a whole person and thinking about who you would be within our academic community. So when we're reading an application, really what we're trying to learn about you is, are you going to be an amazing, exciting student on our campus? So we're looking at all of these parts of your application. We're looking at your grades, what classes you've taken, what rigor you've taken within your high school. It's our job as admission officers to be knowledgeable about what the curriculum might be like at your school. So I read applications from the Czech Republic, and I'm very familiar with some students might be at an IB school or an international school. Some students might be in a national curriculum. We're not judging you based on what your school offers, but we want to see that you're really performing well and challenging yourself within whichever school you attend. We also want to learn about, we want to think about what kind of impact you'll be. You're not just going to be a student on our campus. You're going to be a teammate. You'll be probably a roommate. You'll be a club member. We want to learn who you'll be within our school community. We're interested in why you're excited about our school. And we're interested in what makes you excited. What do you care about? What are you passionate about? What do you want to pursue in college? So we're looking at all these different parts of you and thinking about these questions when we make our decisions. So I briefly mentioned academics. So when we're looking at your academic information, we are considering all these different factors. So we'll take a look, as I said, about what courses are offered at your school. We never expect you to go above and beyond what's offered at your school. So if your school doesn't offer IB or AP, we don't expect that you're going to go take extra AP exams or that you're going to somehow find out that curriculum. We really take a look at what school you're at, and your school actually sends us information about what courses are offered and what's really rigorous and challenging. We look at that rigor of your curriculum as well as your grade trends. We do not expect perfection. Nobody is perfect. But we want to see really strong evidence that you are a serious student who is really passionate about learning. And when I look at your high school transcript, I can say, wow, this student is really an excellent student. They work hard. They're really interested in learning. And I can definitely see them as a successful student on our campus. When it comes to standardized tests, at Penn, we've been test optional since 2020. We are going to continue to be test optional for 2023 for SAT or ACT. If you'd like to take those tests, you can, and you can submit them, and we'll look at those test scores. But if you don't want to take those tests, you do not have to take them, and we fully consider you. There's really no difference in admission rate or decisions. We will still require English language testing like the TOEFL, the IELTS, or Duolingo, if your school is not in an English speaking school and if English is not your first language. So we will still look at that English proficiency, but SAT or ACT are optional. So you can take them or you could not take them. It's really up to you.
Okay.
We also look at your recommendations. So typically we're going to see 2 teacher recommendation letters, and it really could be anybody who's taught you in an academic setting. It's usually nice to see a recent teacher because they'll know you pretty well compared to who you'll be in college. And then your school counselor or an advisor at your school will kind of provide another letter that gives us more information about your high school. With the teacher letters, we really get to see who you are in the classroom. So when I look at your transcript, I can see your grades and how well you performed, but your teacher recommendations tell me, how you approach challenging material. If you are in a group presentation, what kind of role do you play? If somebody's struggling in class, are you the person that really goes out of your way to help them? Maybe you're really involved in class discussion, and maybe you're more quiet, but when you do speak, everyone's really impressed by what you contribute to the conversation. Those are those non-tangible qualities that we look at in the teacher recommendations.
That's great. Sometimes, I'm sorry, Jessica. So sometimes our teachers can only speak Czech. So if they write the recommendation letter in Czech language, can it be translated and just, signed, and then we upload both letters so that you can double check?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. So we do see plenty of international students have translated recommendation letters. And so you can upload those directly to us, and with a certified translation, we will consider that too.
Perfect, thank you.
We will typically accept an additional letter of recommendation. It's not required, but if there's somebody else that's not a teacher that you'd like to write a letter for you, that could be someone that adds something different. Maybe it's an employer, or maybe someone you did research with, or a volunteer coordinator, or somebody from your place of worship, or maybe an EducationUSA advisor, whatever it might be. But the additional letter should really be from someone new, not just a third teacher, for example. Then the other components that we consider, extracurricular activities or things we do outside of the classroom. There is a space on the application where you can list any activities or things or clubs that you do. There's really no right or wrong activity to have on there. We are just curious about how you spend your time outside of the classroom. So we're not looking for anything specific that you have to do, but we want to see, are you in any clubs at school? Are you volunteering? Are you doing some science Olympiads or involved with debate or Model UN? Whatever it might be, it's fine. Again, I read all applications from all of Europe, and different countries have different, extracurricular activity opportunities. So we don't expect you to look just like a student in the US. We know that school times may be different, or maybe schools don't have as many clubs as they might in the US. So we're always thinking about that context too. But we're just curious about what you do outside the classroom, and family responsibilities or part-time jobs can certainly count too. When it comes to essays, we do have a personal essay, typically on the Common application, and that's one essay that's personal to you, could be about any topic, and it will typically go to every school that you apply to. There's a lot of different prompts you can choose from, so you could truly write about anything. The whole goal is that we want to see a little bit of who you are, what your personality is. When I read an application, I read about your grades, I read what your teachers say about you, I see what activities you're involved with, and then the essay, I feel like I get to get a little bit of your personality kind of come through that computer screen. The best essays, it doesn't matter the topic, but it should be unique to you. So if, let's say, you printed out your essay in the school library on the printer, and your best friend picked it up and your name wasn't on the essay, if your best friend read it, would they know that that's your essay? If so, it's probably a pretty good essay because it's really personal to who you are. And if not, if they think, oh, anybody could have written this essay, I don't know who this is, then it probably just needs more personal details to make it really shine and tell us who you are. In addition to that personal statement, there's also many schools have supplemental school-specific essays. And we promise we don't make you do extra work just because we're evil. These are really important because in this part of the application, we think about, okay, the student is amazing, but why do they want to come to my university? And this is where you should be able to write specifically about a school, answer whatever questions that they ask, and really show us why you're excited about our school. Maybe it's a class you love to take, a professor you want to do research with, or a club you would join, or something about where that university is located. But it should be specific. That's really the key there. Okay. And then finally, some schools might have an interview. At Penn, we do offer alumni interviews, and they're always going to be virtual. But we get so many applications, we can't interview every single student every single year. Chances are, if you're applying to a highly selective university, you might get an interview request in your email. So it's always important to check your email. They're typically virtual, and they're an opportunity to chat with somebody who may have gone to that university. They're volunteers, so they're excited to learn more about you and talk about their own experience at the university. And they kind of give a little bit more of an informal glimpse of your personality. Your essay writing is more formal, but the interview, we kind of get a little picture of who you are and if you're excited about our school. And it's also a great chance to ask questions to that interviewer about the university. So you can really look at it as a discussion and a conversation more than an interview.
That's amazing. I had students this year who went through interviews, and they were so scared in the beginning and so stressed out. And then later they were like, oh, that was amazing. I got to meet an alumni and we got to chat and I got to ask questions and I got that personal experience. And so guys, please do not be stressed out. This is going to be fine. And you are going to learn so much from the alumni. And I know that this is not something that you are used to. In the Czech Republic, we don't have such a big alumni community and we don't do interviews, but this is such an amazing aspect to US higher education system that you're gonna love it.
Yeah, and if you are applying to Penn from the Czech Republic, we try to pair you with somebody who's either in the Czech Republic, an alumni, or they might be in Europe or nearby, or they might be somebody in the same academic program that you're interested in. And so you should have some things in common that you can really learn about and ask about, hey, what was it like being an international student at school, and how did you make that transition, and were you homesick, things like that.
Cool. Yeah.
All right, so just some pieces of advice. It's really a time, I know it's cliche, but you should be yourself. There's no formula or like secret trick to get in. If there were, I could write a book and be very successful. We're not looking for any one perfect student. We're looking to admit an amazing class of very different people. And so my best advice is really to be yourself, and understand that even you are more interesting than anyone you could pretend to be. So tell us what you're interested in, tell us what excites you, show us how well you've performed in school and what you want to study in college. And know that every single part of the application will be considered. Also, this is going to be your journey. Nobody gets anywhere by themselves, so you'll have a lot of support along the way. And you want to be thankful for that support from your family, friends, teachers, parents. But, at the end of the day, it's your application. And so it really should be your unique voice coming through. And it's your decision too, at the end of the day. You want to listen to your intuition, and think about, a lot of this comes from reflection. So if you really reflect on what you're excited about, you're going to be a successful applicant. Some more advice. It's always good to stay organized, however that looks for you, whether you're someone who likes to write everything down on paper, or you keep spreadsheets, or you have the notes app on your phone, keeping everything together. But this is a complicated process. In the US, we don't make it easy for you. It's not like every school has the same exact deadline. It'd be nice if we did, but sorry, we don't. So you really need to stay on top of all those deadlines and requirements, and then check your application status portals to make sure that everything was received on time. And you'll also, in that process, make sure to build those relationships with your teachers, your counselors, and your mentors, because they're going to be supportive of you through this. Communication is important, and always ask questions. We all have offices and email addresses. You can always reach out to us if you have a specific question. It's good to get to know schools, even if you're looking at the US and you're far away and you can't visit in person. There's tons of virtual stuff out there you could take advantage of. And follow us on social media. Follow different schools you're interested in, and you'll get a feel for what it's like to be a part of that community. You check us out on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook or whatever it might be. This is a hard one, but it's good advice. Try not to compare yourself to others. I know it's tough when maybe all your classmates or your friends are going through the same process, but at the end of the day, this is about you. And it's always important to remember that. Like I said, make sure you discuss that financial aid with your family early so that you're really aware, and that can really shape what colleges you might want to apply to. And be purposeful with your applications. You don't want to apply to too many schools because you might spread yourself thin and then you don't have very strong applications if you're submitting so many applications. You really want to create a list and then make sure that you have enough time to really execute and submit really great applications to every school and be really proud of the work that you've done. And finally, we want you to keep an open mind and get excited about the future because there are so many schools and so many great opportunities out there. All right. Any questions, Hani, before I move in to talk a little bit more about Penn specifically?
I mean, it was great. Thank you so much for all the information. And as you mentioned, it is so important, you guys, to find your best fit, as Jessica told about. Like, there are 4,500 plus universities in the US. So please use the College Board Big Future website, use the niche.com website, come to me with your college list, and I'm happy to have a look. And consider the dream schools, the reach schools, the safety schools, so that you get some nice letters of admissions. Yeah.
Great advice. So we'll transition to talk a little bit more about Penn. On the screen, you can see a picture of our campus. This is just a few blocks from where I am in my office right now. Penn is in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. We are about a 15-minute walk to Center City, downtown Philadelphia. But as you can see from the picture, we do have a beautiful campus feel. So it's really nice, lots of green space and that nature and beauty, but you also get to be right in the city. When we talk about Penn as a university, we call ourselves a medium-sized Ivy League liberal arts and sciences research university. We are in Philly, and we were founded by Ben Franklin. So what this means is that we have about 10,000 undergraduate students. We're definitely not small, but we're not quite as big as some US schools that might have like 40,000 students. And the class sizes at Penn are very small. So you're gonna be in classes with probably 15 to 20 students typically on average. Some classes might be larger, but you are really gonna get to know your professors very well, and you'll have a tight-knit academic environment. As a member of the Ivy League, Penn is a part of an athletic league with a lot of other very old colleges on the East Coast of the United States, including Harvard, Princeton, Yale, Cornell, Dartmouth, Penn, etc., Brown. What we have in common is that we're all historic, we're all old, we are all highly selective, but we're all pretty different from each other. One thing that we definitely have in common, though, is that we are all committed to need-based financial aid instead of merit and athletic scholarships. So everyone who gets admitted to our schools, we are committed to meeting 100% of financial need for every single student, whether you're an international student or a US student. As a liberal arts and sciences research university, what this means is that no matter what you major in or study, you are going to be able to take lots of different classes in lots of different areas instead of just specializing in one area of study only. So you could study chemistry, but you'll be able to take classes in the arts, computer science, history, dance, etc. And there's a lot of flexibility, which is one of the best things about the US higher education system. And then finally, we were founded by Ben Franklin, who's a famous founding father in the US. He was a diplomat, spent a good amount of time in France. He was a scientist, an inventor. He is famous for doing so many things throughout his lifetime. And Penn students really kind of embody that because they have lots of interests and they also want to make an impact on society. If you're more of a visual learner like me, you can see a very abstract map of the US, the East Coast of the US. So Philadelphia, we are in a great spot. We are about an hour and a half from New York by train, 2 hours north of Washington, DC by train, 5 hours or 6 hours to Boston by train. So if you do come to Philly, first of all, we have a great international airport. So it's gonna be fairly easy to get home because once you get to the Philadelphia airport, you're only 15 minutes away from our campus. And if you're at school at Penn, you're gonna be able to visit friends. If you have a friend in Boston or a friend in New York, it's pretty easy to get around this part of the country. At Penn, we have 4 undergraduate schools that you can apply directly to when you apply. We have the College of Arts and Sciences, which is home to the majority of Penn students, about 2/3 of all Penn students, and the majority of the majors that we offer. Political science, physics, health and societies, etc. You can find it all in the college. Then we have 3 pre-professional schools. If you're interested in nursing, we have our amazing School of Nursing. If you're interested in studying business, we have the Wharton School of Business, the first business school, which we're very proud of. And then we also have our engineering school if you want to study any kind of our engineering degrees, as well as our computer science major is within engineering. And then Hani asked me to highlight some interesting courses. So I went and looked into our course catalog, which was a lot of fun. There were so many interesting courses, so I picked a few from some of our different schools. But as I said, US higher education is flexible. You can take lots of classes for fun and elective. You can add a minor or add a double major. And these were some of the ones that stuck out to me. There's one on medicine, magic, and miracles, which is all about healthcare, but thinking about the history of the medical practice from medieval times and on. So that sounded really interesting. I want to go back and take that class. If you are an anime fan, there's a class in our religious studies department called The Religion of Anime, which goes into Japanese history and media, which sounds fascinating. If you're interested in engineering and tech, there's a really popular class called Engineering Entrepreneurship, which is all about how to found a successful tech venture. And they do lots of business case studies, and they bring in guest speakers who are successful tech entrepreneurs to talk about their own journeys. So really fascinating class, and definitely interesting for many of our students who are studying business or engineering or computer science. And there's an important class of all about AI, business, and society. So really fascinating current topic that's in the news a lot if you want to really delve into what's going to happen with AI and how it might change aspects of business and society. When it comes to living on campus at Penn, we require you to live on campus at least your first 2 years, and you can live on campus up to all 4 years of your college experience. This is one of our buildings where our first year students live. It's called the Quad. So it's one of our beautiful historic options for students, although there are quite a few to choose from. When you live on campus, you might have a roommate, and you'll definitely have hallmates. In general, it's a very social experience. You'll also have professors and upperclassmen and graduate students living among you. So they're going to be providing activities, getting to know each other, events. There might be free tickets to go see a 76ers game, or if you're into the NBA, or go see a show in downtown Philly, come see a Broadway show that's visiting our city. So there's definitely a very vibrant campus life that you'll find yourself immersed in. And at Penn and at a lot of our schools, international students typically might have their own special orientation where you get to move on campus a few days before everybody else, get to know the international community, and really get the lay of the land because we know you are coming from farther away. And then again, this is an example of what one of the rooms in one of our college houses might look like, just to get a feel for what you might be living in potentially in your first year. And I mentioned Penn's international community. About 13% of students at Penn have an international background, coming from all over the world. And then about 19% of our international students are coming from Europe. We do have students from the Czech Republic admitted this year and currently at Penn. There is also a Czech and Slovak club that I hear is pretty active and very fun if you want to get involved and meet, fellow students who come from the same place as you. So you will definitely find that international community, and there's a lot of cool things on campus that support that community with events and various other things. This is a picture of our Perry World House, which is a place on campus that will bring foreign leaders to campus, and they'll talk about international relations and international diplomacy. And then if you are thinking about applying to college in this upcoming year and you're interested in Penn, just a few things you should know about our process. We are continuing to be test optional, again, for the SAT or the ACT. You can apply to Penn early decision or regular decision. Again, early decision is that binding option, regular decision is non-binding. You can apply through the common application or the coalition application. We do offer need-based financial aid, and we do meet full need for students with grants and not loans. So that's free money you do not have to pay back. And we are in the top 10 financial aid budgets in the US for international students. So even though we are need aware, we are able to admit many students every single year with really generous funding. And then finally, if you are more interested in Penn and want to learn more, you could always directly email us with a specific question. You can go into our website and do a virtual visit. We have a virtual tour online. We also have a great YouTube page with more webinars and information. And there's also an international student financial aid recorded webinar on there. If you want to learn more in-depth information about financial aid, that's a great resource. And you can follow us on social media at Previewing Penn.
That's awesome. Thank you, Jessica, so much. That's great. Guys, definitely please reach out to Jessica, reach out to me if you would like us to connect you with Czech students studying currently at UPenn. I know about 2 of them. I know about Ondra Gonzor and Tomáš Nepala. They are a part of the Czech and Slovak club at UPenn, and I'm sure that they'll be happy to answer questions. And Jessica, I'm sure that she will also answer any of your questions. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much, Hani, and thank you everyone for tuning in.
Yeah, awesome. So guys, if you have any questions, I think there are 2 more, or last slide maybe, Jessica. My email address is advisor@fulbright.cz. So guys, if you have any questions, you can post them underneath the live stream. You also see Jessica's email address, follow us on social media, and I can't wait to see your applications and your essays to UPenn.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. Perfect. So let me